L'Jarius Sneed is officially back with the Chiefs, and new footage from practice is already taking over the internet. Chiefs fans are thrilled to see one of their former stars back in Kansas City. But not everyone is convinced this reunion is a good idea. Here's what's happening. Less than a week after he visited Kansas City for a free agent visit, L'Jarius Sneed is back in red and gold, agreeing to a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. And when clips of him at the facility, walking through those doors, going through drills, locking in with the defense, started hitting the internet, Chiefs Kingdom lost it. NFL insider Jordan Schultz broke the news on X, and the reunion was celebrated by Chiefs fans across social media, many of whom believe Sneed is exactly what the secondary needs to get back to shutting down opposing receivers. The reactions came fast. L'Jarius back? Chiefs DB room just got terrifying again, one fan posted. Another went further. Reunion season in KC. L'Jarius Sneed back where he belongs. Chiefs defense about to be disgusting again. Let's run it back. And a third chimed in. Sneed back in KC? That defense just got its swagger back. Chiefs Kingdom loves a reunion. So what's driving that kind of response? Because this isn't just a guy re-signing with a former team. This is a full circle story. One that involves injury, legal trouble, exile, and now a shot at resurrection. 6 years after being selected by the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2020 NFL Draft, and 2 years after being traded to the Tennessee Titans, Sneed is a Chief once again. But those 2 years in between, they were a disaster by almost every measure. Sneed, 29, struggled to stay on the field for Tennessee, appearing in just 12 games over 2 seasons. He had signed a 4-year, $76 million contract after the Titans acquired him in the trade with the Chiefs. That contract, the one he fought for, the one that made him one of the highest paid cornerbacks in football, delivered almost nothing. It never delivered on its promise. Injuries limited him to 12 games across 2 seasons, finishing his time in Nashville with 49 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and no interceptions. 0 interceptions. For a cornerback who had racked up 10 of them in Kansas City, the Chiefs traded Sneed to the Titans in 2024. After placing the franchise tag on him that year, Tennessee released him on March 13 of 2026 in a move that saved the team $11.4 million in salary cap space. Gone, cut loose. A star reduced to a cap casualty. But then something happened. He visited Kansas City, and the clips that came out of that facility visit, Sneed back on the practice fields where he earned 2 rings, started circulating immediately. After losing Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Brian Cook, this offseason, defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo was happy to have Sneed back in the building as a veteran presence. And the numbers back that up. Sneed has played more snaps for Spagnuolo than the rest of the cornerback room combined. That detail is worth pausing on. More snaps in this scheme than everyone else in that room put together. When you're watching that practice footage and wondering why it feels different, that's why. Sneed walks into a secondary that looks vastly different from the one he left. A group headlined by first-round pick Mansour Delane and nickelback Kader Coho. Like the latter, Sneed will enter 2026 seeking a redemption year, after health struggles limited him in his most recent season. Now the footage makes total sense. This isn't just a player showing up to work. This is a man trying to reclaim something he lost. And Chiefs Kingdom is here for every second of it. To understand why these practice clips carry so much weight, you need to understand what Sneed was before any of this. Because where he came from and what he built in Kansas City is the baseline against which everything else is measured. Born on January 21, 1997, Sneed is an American professional football cornerback who played college football for the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs and was selected by the Kansas City Chiefs in the 4th round of the 2020 NFL Draft. 4th round, 138th overall. The kind of pick that teams make without holding their breath. The kind of player who has to earn every single inch of his career. Throughout training camp in his rookie year, he competed to be a starting cornerback. He went up against Rashad Fenton, Bashaud Breeland, and Antonio Hamilton. Head coach Andy Reid named him the 4th cornerback on the depth chart to begin the season. 4th on the depth chart. But Sneed didn't stay there long. On September 10, 2020, he earned his first career start as a nickelback, recording 3 solo tackles, 2 pass deflections, and his first career interception on a pass thrown by Deshaun Watson to Brandon Cooks in a victory against the Houston Texans. From there, the rise was steady and significant. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo had chosen to place Sneed at cornerback, and that decision aged incredibly well. By the time the dynasty was in full swing, Sneed was not just in the rotation. He was one of the most important pieces of it. In 57 games with the Chiefs to begin his career, he recorded 40 passes defended, 10 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. He also helped the franchise hoist 2 Lombardi trophies, producing 72 tackles and an interception in 13 postseason contests. 13 postseason games, 72 tackles, and interception. These aren't depth chart numbers, these are championship numbers. The kind of production that holds up under the biggest lights the sport has. In 69 career games, Sneed tallied 43 passes defensed, 10 interceptions, and 6 sacks. For a cornerback to have 6 sacks is exceptional. That speaks to the versatility and aggression that made him such a difficult player to scheme around. Opposing offenses couldn't simply account for him as a traditional corner. He showed up in the backfield, he disrupted timing, he made quarterbacks think twice, and the relationship with Spagnuolo was central to all of it. The scheme, the communication, the trust, it developed over 4 years and produced results at the highest level. Spagnuolo chose to place him at cornerback when scouts weren't entirely sure where he fit, and that instinct turned out to be the foundation of a mutual, productive partnership. The franchise tag in 2024 was meant to keep that going. The Chiefs traded Sneed to the Tennessee Titans after placing the franchise tag on him that year. It was a financial decision dressed up as a procedural one. The Chiefs had used the tag, signaling they valued him, then moved him for assets before the ink was barely dry. The trade sent Sneed to Tennessee and resulted in Kansas City receiving a 2025 third-round pick and a 2024 seventh-round pick swap. Draft capital, that was the price. And for Sneed, it was a clear message. You've been valued as a trade chip rather than a long-term cornerstone. So he went to Tennessee, signed for 4 years and $76 million, and set out to prove he was worth every cent. What followed was 2 years that would shake everything he'd built. Now, standing back on that practice field in Kansas City, the footage tells a different story. He's been here before. He knows where everything is. He knows the calls, the concepts, the culture. And Chiefs Kingdom, watching those clips cycle through their feeds, knows exactly what they're looking at. The Tennessee chapter is the part of this story that makes those practice clips so emotionally loaded. Because the version of Sneed that showed up at Chiefs facilities this week didn't arrive from a position of strength. He arrived from the rubble of 2 years that nearly ended his career. The Titans got the franchise tag version of Sneed, a coveted asset, a proven cornerback off back-to-back championships. Upon being dealt to Tennessee, the 29-year-old signed a 4-year, $76.4 million deal, becoming one of the highest-paid cornerbacks in the league. The money was big, the expectations were bigger. What they actually got was a fraction of the player they paid for. On the first day of training camp, the Titans placed Sneed on the active physically unable to perform list. On October 23, the Titans placed him on injured reserve due to a quad injury. That was year 1. He barely played. He finished the 2024 season with just 5 appearances while posting 23 total tackles. Then year 2 came, and it wasn't much different. In year 2, Sneed logged 26 tackles and 3 passes defended in 7 games, before being placed on season-ending injured reserve with another quad injury. And the numbers from that second season are brutal. Sneed earned a 54 overall PFF defensive grade in the 2025 season, 104th among 114 qualified cornerbacks. His coverage grade ranked 102nd among qualified cornerbacks. He allowed a 137.7 passer rating when targeted by opposing quarterbacks. That's near the bottom of the entire league. Those are the kinds of numbers that get players released. He recorded 0 interceptions on the season and broke up just 1 pass in coverage. 1. For a player who had built a reputation as one of the more disruptive cornerbacks in the AFC. But the on-field collapse was only one layer of this story. Because while Sneed was hobbling through games in Tennessee, something far more serious was unfolding off the field. The case traced back to an incident at a luxury car dealership in Carrollton, Texas in December 2024. 2 plaintiffs alleged that Sneed and his personal assistant, Takanze Williams, arrived in a rented Lamborghini, and that shots were fired at a business owner nearby. Security footage later obtained by the Associated Press showed Sneed driving the vehicle in the minutes before the alleged shooting. Christian Nshimiyimana, who owns an exotic car rental business and was researching vehicles for his company, neither he nor anyone else was hit by bullets fired from a Lamborghini Urus driving past One Legacy Motors. The lawsuit was officially filed in Dallas and states that the incident was an unprovoked attack in cold blood in broad daylight. The lawsuit noted that the defendants may have mistaken Nshimiyimana for someone else, and Sneed's legal exposure kept shifting. On November 12, 2025, Sneed was indicted by a grand jury in Dallas County, Texas, for failing to report a felony that occurred in December 2024. Sneed's charge was punishable by a fine of up to $4 and/or 1 year in county jail. A year in county jail, that's what was hanging over him. Reacting on social media, Sneed described the past 2 years as taking a heavy toll, declaring the weight is finally off and vowing to reclaim what he lost. His statement reflects both personal relief and competitive determination, as he seeks to revive his career after injuries and legal distractions. And then, just as free agency opened up, all criminal charges against Sneed were dismissed by Texas authorities, ending a 2-year legal ordeal stemming from the 2024 shooting incident. While a $1 million civil lawsuit remains pending, the dismissal removed a major obstacle for the 29-year-old as he entered NFL free agency. 2 years of injuries, 2 years of legal clouds, both cleared, or at least enough cleared for him to get back on a field. On March 13, 2026, Sneed was released by the Titans. Tennessee were cutting their losses. And now, a few months later, the footage of him back in Kansas City is everywhere. The practice footage of Sneed in red and gold isn't just a feel-good story for nostalgic fans. It's the end result of a deliberate, high-stakes organizational decision by the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that had ripped apart its entire cornerback room and needed to put something credible back together. Let's set the scene. This offseason, Kansas City didn't just lose depth at cornerback. They traded away their best one. The Chiefs reworked their cornerback room by trading Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams for 1st, 5th, and 6th round picks in 2026 and a 2027 third rounder. Much like the Sneed trade 2 years ago, it was a move made with the team's finances in mind, given the large extension McDuffie was seeking and ultimately received in Los Angeles at 4 years and $124 million. So they moved McDuffie for picks rather than pay him what the market demanded. That's the same calculus they used when they traded Sneed. The difference is that this time, they went out and brought one of those traded players back. The Chiefs revamped their cornerback depth chart after trading McDuffie to the Rams and seeing fellow 2025 starter Jalen Watson leave in free agency. Also to the Rams, they traded up in the 2026 draft to select Mansour Delane and signed Kader Coho and Kaiir Elam in free agency. After being selected with the number 6 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, there's no excuse for Delane to have anything but a starting role when the season begins. Speaking about Delane, Spagnuolo said it was pretty clear to the Chiefs staff that the 6th overall pick was the best cornerback in the draft. He jumped out on tape, said Spagnuolo. The information we gathered was that he wanted to be challenged a little bit more, so he went to LSU. I think that speaks volumes about a guy. So the plan was always to build around the rookie. But building around a rookie is a different thing from relying on one. That's where Sneed comes in. Sneed's signing creates questions for Noah Williams and Christian Fulton, but it shouldn't impact Delane. After being selected with the 6th pick, there's no excuse for Delane to have anything but a starting role. Williams is a 3rd round pick entering his 2nd season after a promising rookie campaign. Fulton is in the 2nd year of his 2-year, $20 million contract. After a disappointing 2025 season, the Chiefs' best-case scenario still looks like a starting duo of Delane and Williams, allowing the young, cost-controlled players to hold their roles. However, Fulton could reasonably win the job in 2026 if he can stay healthy during training camp. So Sneed's role isn't guaranteed. He has to compete for it, and that's by design. Sneed can't be guaranteed a role at this point in his career until his health can be trusted. But if he's healthy, if those quad issues that ended his last 2 seasons are genuinely behind him, then the Chiefs just added a player who knows this scheme better than almost anyone on their entire roster. The practice footage is the early evidence of that. He's not walking through drills like a newcomer finding his footing. He's been here before. He knows the terminology, the alignments, the personnel. There's a different feel to Chiefs practices this summer, or the return of a feel the team hasn't had on the field for the past couple of years. Eric Bieniemy is back. Chad O'Shea and DeMarco Murray have been added as position coaches, and O'Shea in particular brings a certain energy to practice, and Patrick Mahomes is feeling it. I love it, man. Mahomes said of the energy at practice. The first meeting had me wanting to run through a brick wall. It had me ready to go. Now add Sneed to that environment, A two-time champion who has been through the absolute worst this game can throw at a person, and chose to come back to the place where it all made sense. It's not known whether Sneed will return to his pre-injury form, but adding him to the mix certainly strengthens the Chiefs' secondary. And for a team that's operating under cap pressure, that's exactly the kind of bet they need to take. The Chiefs started the day with just under $12.5 million in salary cap space, and after signing their 2026 draft class, they'll be left with $3.45 million in salary cap space once those deals are ratified. Every dollar has to do work. Sneed's deal, at up to $5 million with incentives, fits that window perfectly. So we come back to the footage, the clips. The reason this blew up the feeds. Here's the thing about practice footage in the middle of the NFL offseason. It carries a weight. It wouldn't carry at any other time of year. There's no game tape. There's no play-by-play. There's just a player on a field. And whatever you can read into how he moves, how he carries himself, how he communicates with the guys around him, and what those clips of Sneed at Chiefs practice are telling people. Not just casual fans, but coaches and analysts who know this defense intimately, is that the player who left Kansas City might still be in there somewhere. Sneed has played more snaps for Spagnuolo than the rest of the cornerback room combined. That's not just institutional knowledge. That's muscle memory. The communication lines in this defense are deeply grooved in him. When Spagnuolo calls something in that room, Sneed doesn't have to translate it the way a newcomer would. He already lives in that language. The discussion on social media and fan forums has split into two camps, and both camps make sense given what we know. On one side, y'all tripping? This is a great move. Sneed is a great player under Coach Spags and will continue to prove that. On the other side, fans and analysts are watching those practice clips specifically for signs of explosiveness. Does he plant and drive the way he used to? Does he close on the ball? Does the quad look clean? Because the injury history is real and it's severe. His tenure with the Titans was short-lived, lasting just 2 seasons. He had multiple stints on injured reserve due to a quad injury, including when he missed the final 10 contests of the 2025 campaign. That's not a nagging injury. That's a recurring structural issue at a position that demands elite athleticism on every single snap. But there's another dimension to what these practice clips represent. One that's easy to overlook if you're just watching the football. Sneed had said the weight is finally off when the charges were dismissed, and vowed to reclaim what he lost. His statement reflects both personal relief and competitive determination. The man who's walking back onto that practice field in Kansas City has been carrying 2 years of physical pain and legal stress simultaneously. That's not a small thing. And for a player in a position that requires a quiet, focused mind, a cornerback who can't flinch, can't second guess, can't carry distractions into man coverage against the league's fastest receivers, clearing that weight matters enormously. Following 2 seasons of underwhelming performance due in part to a persistent quadriceps injury, Sneed was released by the Titans in March, freeing him to find his next NFL home. He chose the one he knew best, rejoining Spagnuolo and coach Andy Reid in Kansas City. He had choices. The Cowboys, Dolphins, Packers, Saints, and Seahawks were all noted as potential landing spots. He chose Kansas City on a 1-year deal. Prove it money, eyes open about what this is. Sneed can't be guaranteed a role at this point in his career until his health can be trusted. And that's exactly why the footage matters. Every rep, every drill, every route he contests in practice is data. For the coaching staff, for the front office, for the fans watching through their phones. It's all building toward a picture of whether the real Sneed made it out of Nashville. Sneed gives the Chiefs a veteran presence to pair with Delane and fellow rookies alongside the team's youthful cornerback core. And in a room full of players who have never played a meaningful NFL snap, that presence alone is worth something that doesn't show up in any stat line. The way he walks into a film session, the way he breaks down an opponent's tendencies, the way he prepares a 21-year-old first-round pick for what's coming. That's leadership. And leadership shows up in practice before it shows up anywhere else. So when you watch that footage, Sneed back in red and gold, moving through a drill that he's run hundreds of times before, on a field where he became a champion, you're not just watching an off-season depth signing. You're watching a man try to pick up the pieces of a career that got scattered across 2 years of brutal luck. You're watching a championship-caliber defense try to reassemble itself after being dismantled by financial reality. And you're watching a franchise double down on a bet that the player they knew, the disruptive, versatile, championship-hardened cornerback who terrified receivers in this exact scheme, is still in there. Whether that bet pays off by the time September comes around is a question that minicamp, training camp, and the first several weeks of the 2026 season will have to answer. But right now in Kansas City, the footage alone is enough to make Chiefs Kingdom believe.